EMSB spokesperson Mike Cohen, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. Back to school is around the corner, and obviously parents, students, there's a lot of questions to answer. So we're going to try and answer some of those today. So really appreciate your time, Mike.
It's a pleasure.
So let's start with hygienic measures. We know that it's really important to wash our hands frequently with the COVID-19 pandemic. So how is it going to work with back to school when kids enter the school? Is there going to be stations to wash your hands or, hand sanitizer available?
Yeah, I guess you could call it COVID 101, new course in our schools. It's funny because before COVID hit, we had already placed hand sanitizing machines in all of our schools, all of our buildings, because, kids get sick, they pass it on to others. And this was before we had a pandemic. So yes, we have perhaps more in the buildings than we had before. And there will be an emphasis on kids making sure they clean their hands when they come in. Hand washing, it'll be repeated by teachers in the classrooms. And we're talking for all ages here.
Okay, another thing that has come up is the fact that masks are mandatory as of grade 5 for students and staff, but within the classrooms, masks won't be mandatory. So is there anything that the EMSB is doing right now to try to keep classroom sizes smaller, maybe taking over some common areas like libraries to move the classes in there so there are fewer students in one classroom?
The teachers come back next week, so they'll be in for about a week before school starts. Every school is different, of course. We have large schools, we have smaller schools, we have medium-sized schools. So we don't have a recipe for all. So where necessary, yes, we will make some changes if we have to. But every classroom is going to be looked at and ensure that it meets the criteria necessary. If it doesn't, other measures will be taken. Okay.
Now, in the common areas, they have to wear a mask, right? As grade 5. Not while they're eating. So how is lunch hour going to work? Are kids going to go to the cafeteria? Are they going to have lunch in the classroom? How's that going to work?
Again, that's going to vary by school. Some schools, they will be able to go to the cafeteria. The cafeteria is large enough, or sometimes it's the gym that's turned into a cafeteria. If it's a large gym, there'll be a lot of tables. You'll be able to limit the number of students per table. But some schools, they may decide that the kids are going to eat at their desk. And that'll be the procedure. So again, it's going to differ from school to school.
And what about recess? Is recess going to work as it usually does because it's an outdoor space?
Again, it depends on the size of the school, if they need to stagger it or they need to have, not them all at the same time. But I think there's very good supervision at recess in general with staff people who are out with the kids during the summer, the fall, the spring, the winter. So they're going to be extra vigilant out there when they see the kids to ensure that they're not doing anything that's not appropriate.
Okay, and if I understand it correctly from the back to school plan that the government presented, it's going to be mainly the teachers moving, right? Are the students going to be staying like all day in the same classroom?
That's pretty much the plan. Of course, if they have to go to a specialty classroom because there's a lab or something that has to be done where they can't physically be in the classroom, then yes, they'll be moved. But the goal is to keep them into the same room, in the same group, or the same class throughout the day, according to government protocols.
Okay. I guess obviously with a gym class, they have to go to the gym.
Yes, exactly.
Now, what happens if there is a student that starts to feel sick? Whether it be specific COVID-19 symptoms or not, what's the protocol there?
Well, that's the thing, right? It's not like the olden days. A kid felt sick in general. When any child felt sick, they would go to the office. They would usually go to the nurse's room, even if there wasn't a physical nurse there that day. And either if they could not be picked up right away and it wasn't serious, but the parent is called immediately, told your child is not feeling well. Well, it'll be pretty much the same thing. And in terms of what do we do, is it COVID, is it not COVID? We'll be in touch with Santé Publique on a regular basis. They will advise us the procedure to take for every particular case. They pretty much know at this point. So what further action needs to be taken will be done in concert with them.
Okay, so it's not like the child's going to be like immediately evacuated from the school or something like that. Parents will have the time to.
And one of the things that we're emphasizing very strongly this year is for parents to do a health check with their kids before they leave the house every single morning. Do you feel okay? Do you know, if the kid has the slightest discomfort in any way, a headache, a nausea, a runny nose or anything, the parent's going to have to be vigilant and keep them home. We're hoping that they'll all do that, because the moment you send a child to school, you know, do we do that every morning with our children? No, probably not, because it's normal times. It's not normal times anymore. So I think the self check needs to be done by every parent. And I'm talking about a kindergarten child to a teenager in grade 11.
Right, absolutely. The importance of all of us, you know, taking that responsibility on and not going to school or work sick. It may happen though, right? It may be inevitable that someone may get sick with COVID-19. What happens if you identify that, okay, there is a case at a specific school?
That is going to be, again, we are being told right now that it's Santé Publique which will make the call, and there's a number of scenarios that could play out. So we'll have to see what they decide. They'll have all the information at their disposal. And if they tell us that a classroom has to be sent a note home to be told that your child may or may have been exposed to someone with COVID or something similar, we'll follow their protocol. Again, this is a new normal for us, the new normal. It's a new experience for us. We did have a run in the late spring, early summer, when we reopened a number of our schools for special needs students. I know it's a small sample, but we had a very good experience using all the new sanitary protocols that are necessary in terms of the masks, in terms of face shields in certain cases, into hand washing, Purell, hand sanitizers. We didn't have one case of COVID. As well, we had daycares that were open from the beginning of the pandemic in a number of our schools. Again, we had a very good experience. So we're ready. I think our staff are as ready as possible. Our administrators are certainly on top of their job. We really are confident that we're going to be able to do the best job possible. We don't know what's coming in the next few weeks and the next months, but the reality is that we did at least have an opportunity to go through this with limited students, and we were pleased with the results. I can also add that the adult education and vocational services also reopened many of their schools with a larger number of students, be it adults, but again, the protocols were followed and things went very, very well.
And is the school board, are the schools ready, teachers ready to, you know, move things online again if we have to?
I think when the pandemic occurred last spring, this was completely new to everybody. I mean, 1 minute we're looking at the pandemic coming to Canada and coming to Montreal, and the next thing you know, school's canceled on a Friday, and the kids expect to go back the next Monday, and then it's canceled for a couple of weeks, and then it was back and forth. So we really had to act quickly because we never really had online learning before. Our teachers weren't prepared. But I think we got it going very, very well as things moved into the month of April, May, and June. And we are prepared, our educational services department, our student services department, we are prepared for the need to possibly go to online learning. And of course, we already know in high school that it's likely the students will not be going every day, and they will be doing some of their work from home. So I think the online learning, it's still going to be a challenge, but I think we're ready for it, and we're prepared.
We know that one of the things that the parents were asking for from the government was to have the choice, right? To just choose to keep their kids home for online learning? We know the government is quite adamant that no, that's not on the table. There is legal action by parents in Julius Gray right now on that. But, well, first of all, I don't know if you're comfortable giving your perspective on this, but do you think it might have facilitated things to give the option to keep your kids at home and have that online learning?
Well, listen, you have a protocol from the government that all schools are open and class is mandatory. So you have your teachers coming back, and it's not like we have a surplus of teachers who can be available to do online learning and teaching in the classroom. So we are following the directives of the government. No school board, not even private schools, can make their own decisions in this regard. So we have a situation where if a student has a medical condition, someone in their family has a medical condition, they have a verified doctor's note. We now have on our website, in our back to school information section with a special COVID-19 alert, that we now have a procedure for parents to follow if they want their children to stay home because of a particular medical issue. They have to fill out a form. We need a doctor's notice, and there will be online learning provided to them. Right now, that is what's on the table.
Okay, so right now, any doctor's note provided and the proper documentation filled out, there will be exemptions for those kids at risk, or
exactly.
With my member at risk.
Precisely, yeah.
Okay, let's talk about now school buses, because of course, school buses are more restricted spaces there. The rule from the Quebec government has been masks as of grade 5 for students on buses, no more than 2 students per one bench. But of course, the number, right, on your end for the school boards having to manage all this transportation, the number now of students is no more than 48 per bus. So what does that mean for parents? I guess parents need to prepare for driving their kids to school.
It's a huge undertaking for our department that handles transportation. Again, something completely new. Remember that school boards like us, we subcontract the busing. So in our case, it's a company called Transco. They do a fantastic job. So the bus driver will have plexiglass. That's the first thing. Yes, the older students will have to wear masks. We are encouraging all parents to encourage all of their kids when they get on a bus to wear the mask, even if it's not obligatory and according to government regulations. Siblings can sit together, non-siblings cannot. Students, I know it's tough for the younger kids, but they're going to have to be vigilant. We can't have the bus driver being, a COVID guard. He's going to be driving the bus. So we hope things are going to go well there. Naturally, we're encouraging parents who can to drive their kids to school and not put them on the bus. But we will have things under control. The buses will arrive on August 31st at the schools, and the kids will get off, and God willing, everything will go smoothly.
For sure, though, there is going to be a more limited number. So those parents who have no choice, will there be parents who will have no choice and will receive communication saying you must drive your child to school this year?
Well, first of all, we also have something called accommodation busing every year, whereby we're able to add more students to a bus based on convenience. So someone might not live in the territory where they're entitled to busing, but they live close to it. So they make an application, and if we have room, we'll add them on. Well, this year, accommodation busing is going to be much more limited. It's still going to be available. Somebody can still apply. We're going to send out a second survey, actually, because we sent one out already on August 24th. For parents who need accommodation busing. If we can accommodate them, we will, but we may not be able to. So we have to understand that parents some parents by choice may not put their kids on the bus this year. They may drive them there or walk them there or whatever it may be. But again, we're going to do what's necessary to make sure the transportation procedure works.
Okay, and if I'm a parent and I have to drive my child to school, when did those parents already get notified, or when will they get notified?
Well, nobody is being told to drive their kid to school. If you're entitled to busing, and you need it, you're gonna get busing. So we're gonna make it work one way or the other. But it's only the ones for accommodation, meaning there's an extra set of kids who, on a particular given year, we have a number of kids from every school who get busing, even though they're not entitled to it according to our zoning. So those are the ones that there's no guarantee. It doesn't mean they won't get it, but clearly if we have 48 kids on a bus and the accommodation would bring us up to 49 or 50, we won't be able to do it.
Right. So does that mean then that there's going to be more buses on the road? Because I don't know if you know offhand, but how many kids could sit on a bus usually?
Well, I don't have the exact capacity with me, but I think that's in the mix. I think it's if we have a certain amount of students that need to get to school X on a particular day, and we have 48 kids on that bus, but there's let's say 55 or 65 that need to go to the school. We're obviously going to have to make arrangements, and that is being done as we speak.
Okay. What about if we know the mask rule, right? Now, what happens if a bus driver shows up and there's a teenager, a high school age student on the side of the road waiting to get on the bus, not wearing a mask?
Okay, well, first of all, high school kids don't get busing. It's only elementary schools, so that won't be an issue. I don't think anybody is going to get on the bus without a mask. I don't think a parent's going to send their child without a mask. But if they do, just like anything else, we're obviously going to have extra masks everywhere where necessary. I assume they'll be on the buses and in the schools. So if someone doesn't have one, they'll be given one because we cannot afford for someone not to have one.
Right, because it could happen that a child forgets his or her mask.
Or it falls on the ground or something,
Right, of course. Okay, so there will be extra masks on the bus and at the school to make sure for that. Another issue, we heard about the Quebec government investing $20 million to help children catch up who may have fallen behind over the last months with remote education. Some parents and teachers unions were saying, we would have liked to see more funds in there for infrastructure because some of the schools are old, the ventilation systems are old. What do you say to that? Is there anything that is going to be done to maybe try to update that ventilation system, or would you need government funding for that?
Well, we as a school board review our facilities on a very, very regular basis. We have regional supervisors in our material resources department who are assigned to a specific schools. They make regular trips to each school and they inspect them from A to Z. So ventilation is not something that just because of COVID, all of a sudden we're looking at. Ventilation is always looked at. There's always work done to improve the ventilation. Naturally, right now, it's of concern, so it's being checked on. And we already have, someone can call us for a report on anything. How's the boiler system? How's the fire detectors? So on and so forth. We have reports on everything. So we have a very good reportage on the shape of every one of our buildings. And some of our buildings are very, very large. I mean, these are large buildings. And, through our capital works projects, we're constantly doing different work where necessary throughout the year, during the summer. Of course, we're coming back right now where there was summer cleaning done at all of our schools, massive cleaning done in every facet. So I think that everything should be in pretty good shape under the circumstances.
Okay. And I guess lastly, my question for you would be, overall, how do you feel about the Quebec government's back to school plan? I know that there was a lot of pressure to get it. I think parents were eager to see what the new school year was going to look like, but how do you feel that they've done on your end?
Well, look, we understand where they're coming from. We hear from parents. We know parents are concerned, but we also know parents are concerned with their kids, sitting in the house for 4 months, and many want to get back. So the government has a plan. They're requiring all 69 public school boards and frankly all schools in the province to adhere to the protocols. Again, we were prepared to reopen our elementary schools last May. That was the original date that we were supposed to open up, and then it was put off for the rest of the year. So fortunately, from our end, we did a lot of the work in terms of, in terms of the social distancing, the markings on the floor, whatever plexiglass needs to be done, increased sanitary measures. That was done because we anticipated the students to come back last May. And again, as well, we did reopen special needs schools, adult education schools. So we feel we're as ready as we can be. We salute our teachers who are coming back, and we salute them for what they did during confinement. They did a fantastic job. I was in regular touch with many of our teachers, very devoted. This is a really difficult time. We don't know how much longer it's going to go, but we're really crossing our fingers for a good start under this new normal on August 31st.
All right, Mike. Thank you so much.